I'm curious to know how many people have irritated people in your life by how you speak with NVC.
All have got irritated.
So if I use NVC that is not fully integrated, then in a certain small way I am imposing my practice on other people. So I want to take a moment of silence because for me this insight was of great depth for me when I finally got it. Then we find ourselves in a very difficult situation. We no longer want to use the old ways, but we don't have the new ways integrated. Be careful now, because right now you are at your most vulnerable. One is to learn some techniques for making the language sound more natural. Second is to have enough self-acceptance to let go of trying to use NVC with people that are not NVC speakers, and just be spontaneous and let things happen. We all survived many years of living without NVC. And the third thing is to try to make an explicit agreement with the person. I want to give you a way of trying to make the agreement. Something like, I really don't like what happens between us when I talk the way I used to talk. So I would like to talk differently, even though it sounds stilted, because I have some hope that it can help us. Are you willing for me to try? And if the person says yes, then we have a practice group right there. It's more vulnerable than using NVC on top of fear. Usually when people try to use NVC in a context where it's not integrated, there is nervousness and fear and discomfort going on, but we don't say it. So then what we communicate non-verbally is disconnection, both between the true level of our consciousness and our language, and between the true feelings and needs that we have and what we say. For example, if I am judging you as selfish and disrespectful, I'm just making it up, but I know that I should speak NVC. There's a gap between my consciousness and my language. Then I say, this is not meeting my need for respect, but I am like this because of that gap. And the other person picks up the discomfort much more than the words. So if I can say, there is a lot going on inside of me that I don't know how to say usefully, and I'm nervous and uncomfortable, and I still want to try to connect in a different way from the one that I don't like that gets us in trouble. Who would say no to that? Why would anybody want the old argument? So it's not, when people say don't NVC me, what they are saying is be authentic. Authenticity comes before the words. We are doing terrible advertising for NVC when we do what we do. First we alienate the people in our life, and then we ask them to come to a workshop. Why would they ever want to do that? So that's the piece about establishing an agreement to practice in the moment. The second piece is to let go of perfection and to be honest and authentic about the spontaneous truth that lives in me. Eventually, I will know how to translate. For now, if I don't have the agreement, it's better that I speak Jackal that is authentic than that I speak NVC that is imposed on you without your agreement and without my authenticity. I much prefer that we speak authentic Jackal than distorted NVC look-alike that isn't real. I hope you take this deep to your heart for the benefit of all beings. For now, I want to focus on some things that you can do to support the language in sounding natural.
Sometimes I've heard people say, and I've also used it, that, oh, I'm getting my jackals and I'm saying this about you. And then I say it, it's my judgment and I say the judgment. And so where do you see that?
It doesn't help the other person. It helps you, but it doesn't help the other person. Judgment is judgment is judgment. It doesn't matter how many wraps you have around it. If the other person is not trained in seeing the heart of your needs, they will still hear a judgment. What I can do instead is to speak the truth about where I am. If I have enough presence of mind, I want to say, I am so sad that in this moment I don't know what to do inside other than judging you. So sad. It's so much not what I want to do with my life.
You're connecting at a more deeper level.
Much deeper. So, because I don't know how to do it differently, let's talk another time. Much more truth without harming another person. And the harm is not that you are causing the harm. It's that the person doesn't have tools to receive the gift of your judgment. I like to give only gifts that the other person can receive.
And I'm also hearing, what I'm understanding is that in what you said in the past, that is that we are choosing vulnerability and spontaneity and maybe connection over something which works or which doesn't work. Like,
I don't understand.
I use a jackal language or I use my judgment, it's not going to work. But what is going to work is that I'm spontaneous and I'm making myself vulnerable, I'm connecting.
Really coming from the place of truth. But there are many layers of truth. So I want to train myself to come from the deepest layer of the truth. This is very deep training of my inside. And it's not about language.
This also needs great courage.
A lot of courage. Nonviolence has love, truth, and courage.
So Miki, would you say that the source of this courage is just the commitment to freedom, or is it anything else?
Oh, I love the question. Translate it. The question is, would I say that the source of the courage is the commitment to freedom, or is it something else? That is one of the commitments that it can be. It's a commitment to something that matters to me so much that I'm willing to take the risk of the vulnerability. It can be freedom, it can be care, it can be different things. The courage comes from commitment. Commitment to some deep value. When I ask myself, what is the need of this other person? It brings me into that stilted place of ideas and concepts. So I want to give you a few questions and let's see if others have additional ones to help directly shift the consciousness in the moment. If you ask yourself that question, what can I do in this moment that will support both of us? Feel it inside you. Does something change? It's completely rooted in NVC consciousness without focusing on the technique. If I focus on technique, I'm already disconnected. A few other questions that can help. Is there any part of me that I am at war with that I can make peace with right now before I open my mouth? What will help me see the humanity of this person? What can move us towards connection? These are some of the questions. Often what happens for people who have been studying NVC for a while is first there is judgment of the other person and their humanity is gone. They become the enemy that I'm in fight with. Second comes the judgment of myself. What's wrong with me? I've been practicing NVC for X days, X months, X years, doesn't matter. I should not be judging. Okay, let me use NVC now. I lost the humanity of the other person. I lost my humanity. I lost the focus on connection. I lost the hope for possible cooperation. And I'm trying to use language on top of that. You must be joking.
What is my beautiful intention for choosing to open my mouth right now?
What is my beautiful intention for choosing to open my mouth right now? Yes.
I have one which helps me with my children. Is my intention to connect or to correct?
Is my intention to connect or to correct? I like to tweak it a little bit, very little bit. How can I shift my intention from correction to connection? So it's not just observing, it's already gathering the energy to create the change.
How am I contributing to the difficulty of the other person?
I want to create the shift because this doesn't create the shift. I want to add, and what can I do to shift that? Concrete things that you can practice to help you sound more natural. The first one is to remove the word feeling and the word need while still focusing on feelings and needs. Those words get you in trouble. You all know what I'm talking about. Pair up with someone else. You have a list of feeling words. And you have a list of need words. So one person in the pair picks one word from each. And the other person says a naturally sounding sentence that has those two words in it without the word feeling, without the word need. Somebody give me a feeling word and a need word.
Frustrated, respect.
I am frustrated because I have a need for respect. I am frustrated. I so much want to be respected. Sounds much more natural, doesn't it? Second piece of practice to make the language sound more natural. The list of needs is generally one word for each. That is because we want to capture in that list the deepest essence. I want to capture something that is more specific to the context. And I still want it to be at the level of need and not strategy. I want to help myself remember the difference between need and strategy. If something has in it a person, a location, an action, a time, or an object, we know it's a strategy. I want to remember that if I become rigidly focused on finding one word, because if somebody tells me a whole story about something and I say, do you have a need for acceptance? They want to slap me. If I say instead, do you want to be accepted even when people don't like what you do? You feel the difference. I don't need to say any more words. I haven't put it in the context of a strategy. It's still at the level that we recognize as need. But it is specific to the context and the meaning that this person has. I want to connect at the level of meaning that the other person will recognize as meaningful to them. Instead of fitting them into my textbook.
So being with them.
Like, I understand the other thing, but with this, I'm not understanding.
The question is, she doesn't see the connection between what I just shared and what is on the board. So I will demonstrate it with your question. If I say, do you want to understand the connection between what I am saying and what is on the board? I'm reflecting at the level of strategy. Here's what there is. There's what I am saying, so there's a person in my reflection. What is on the board? There's an object in my reflection, so I'm reflecting at the level of strategy. If I say instead, do you want to be able to make sense of the learning that you're getting? These are just reminders to watch out for, so that I reflect without them. So if I am reflecting and it doesn't connect for the other person, and I insist on reflecting the need and not the strategy, then I am correcting and not connecting. And I'm not even saying it directly. I'm implicitly saying, you don't know how to speak about your experience. I will teach you about your experience. Clear, Reva?
I just want to hear once more the two sentences.
One is, do you want me to show you the link between what I said and what is on the board? It is still a reflection. It will give her some benefit, but it's not at the level of need. Second one is something like, do you want to be able to make sense of things when you're learning? I don't know if that's what I said before that. But it's good enough. I don't know if that's what I said before that. But it's good enough. But you hear the difference?
Yeah.
And the third is the pure need, which also sounds odd, which would be, do you have a need for learning? Clear?
The first one which you say that do you want to bring a link between what I say and or
What is written on the board?
link or connect with what I say and what is there in the board. So what I say you personalize it, and in the board it's object. There's a person and an object. But I'm comfortable with what you say because I see that it's the truth. What you say and what's there in the board, it's not connecting. So I'm comfortable with that. So how is that?
I am comfortable with it if my primary purpose is connection. In a practice group setting, I would want to focus on the pure need because I'm training my mind to listen for needs. Not because it's the right way or the way to do it in the world. It's training for my mind to practice.
Because I'm a bit nervous when you say it in the second way. I sense you that you are looking for a better understanding or learning. So the second way, I guess it will be a bit difficult for me to understand what you really say.
Yes.
But the first one is very clear, like
Yes.
what I say, and so it's very clear, and it's the truth.
Yes, whenever I'm able to reflect anything that sounds like what you said, you feel heard and relieved. If I'm going to rephrase it, closer I am to what you actually said, the easier it will be for you to recognize that I heard you. The only setting where it is critically important to move deeper into the level of need is in a mediation. If I stay at the level of strategy, I stay at the level of conflict. So if I help both people go one or two layers down, the conflict disappears. So the art of mediating is to give people a sense of being heard without giving them their thought or strategies back. So go back to your pair. One person tells a very short situation about which they have some charge or feelings. Very short, not a whole story. And the other person tries to reflect a need that is contextual without getting into strategy. Reva said something, and I reflected the contextual full phrase need. Welcome. The full phrase need without the strategy is what you're aiming for.
Can you remind us of the full phrase need that you gave for Reva?
It comes out different each time because each time I'm in the moment. But it would be something like, acceptance even when people don't like what you do. Or it could be respect for your point of view. To be seen for your intentions. It's just a full phrase of a need instead of just the one word. Clear?
And you said without using a strategy.
Exactly. Without putting any of these things in there.
I have a doubt that if the need is connection,
Give me an example.
with XYZ person is not met and you're feeling frustrated.
Okay, so instead of connection with this person, it would be connection with people dear to you. Or it could be connection with family and friends.
More generalize it.
So that's not a particular person.
Generalize it while still keeping it specific. It's a spectrum. It's not a line that separates, it's pure strategy here and it's pure need here. There is a spectrum. And I want all of us to be fluidly able to move on that spectrum based on what's needed in the moment. Yes, what's the situation?
So the situation is, I was expressing to Param how I was beginning to feel gradually happier and more relaxed. But a part of me was still worried that when I get back home, then I will have had a great holiday and I should just get back to work. So I'm kind of dreading the return. So I was expressing that to him, and so.
So what is it that she wants?
She wants to be happy and more happy, relaxed, comfortable. But a part of her is also worried.
So translate the worry into what she wants. So she's worried that she will lose this and get back to being rigid and working. So obviously she doesn't want that. What is it that she wants instead? What does she want to be able to do?
She's afraid of going back to her rigid works.
Yes.
So she doesn't want to go back to her work.
Great. So what is it that she does want? If that's what she doesn't want, can you imagine if that's what she doesn't want, what is it that she does want? The positive part.
Positive. She wants more time for relaxing. More time for relaxing and having fun staying here.
What does she want when she goes back home?
That assurance.
The assurance that what?
Trust.
The trust
that she will still be able to find her time to make to be relaxed.
Great. That you got it. You see? You got it.
Thank you.
I didn't give you the answer. You found it yourself.
Yeah.
Let's come back. So the next piece is adapting the list of needs to the cultural context of the interaction. So I don't know about India, but I would be surprised if in an Indian company you can talk about a need for love or a need for tenderness or compassion. But you can talk about treating people with care and consideration. I want you to take a few minutes to think about the contexts of your life and review with each other which needs would you highlight and which needs would you eliminate from the list for that context. Otherwise, people call you touchy-feely. Is there such a word in India?
So senti and mental.
what are the needs that would be meaningful? And for those needs that you can sense this wouldn't work, how would you say it differently in that context? What words would you substitute? Just take a few minutes to connect with that. In the context where whichever context you want to focus on. It can be, your husband. There are certain needs that wouldn't work to say to him. I don't know. It could be your children, it can be your mother-in-law, or it can be the people you work with. Whichever context you want to focus on.
Friends fine, but I don't know, even in organization, what is spirituality?
Spirituality, I don't think I can say.
Organization, even mutuality and all that.
Whichever context you want to focus on. It can be, your husband. There are certain needs that wouldn't work to say to him. It could be your children, it can be your mother-in-law, or it can be the people you work with. Whichever context you want to focus on.
Can I say in my workplace I have a need for celebration of life? For example, celebration of life. Yeah. Would I say that even in a full phrase or not? Would I say that? No. My school is a culture, my home is a culture. So in every place, I decide whether I feel that I can express this need.
You adapt it to the specific cultural context.
Using it.
Okay? Yeah. Which are they?
We were looking at intimacy and we couldn't figure out any word or phrase that we would use, because if a couple at their family needs to tell their in-laws that we need to go now at 8 o'clock because we need intimacy, the parents would say that this man has sold himself to his wife. In India, when people say intimacy, the in-laws
they mean sex.
Yeah.
The way I understand intimacy is about really being known and knowing the other person. That is a different way of saying intimacy. Would that work? So the very last thing that I want to share with you in terms of naturalizing the language is there is a lot of NVC jargon that we are not conscious that we take on. And it is in particular showing up in the area of connection requests. So let me first explain what connection requests are. In the consciousness of NVC, I want to establish enough connection between another person and myself that we can figure out a solution together. When the connection is established, I make requests for a specific solution of something that will address our needs. So I'll give an example. I come home and my partner said they were going to wash the dishes, and I come home and the dishes are not washed. I know nobody has ever experienced this. So at some point, we need to figure out what is going to happen to the dishes. If I start right away to say, oh, you said you were going to wash the dishes and I am very unhappy because I have a need for support and I have a need for order, would you wash the dishes? I skip over the connection. If you didn't wash the dishes, there is a reason. So I want to connect with all of that before we focus on the dishes. At some point, we will focus on the dishes. That's the solution request. Right now, I'm not concerned with that. I'm only concerned with the requests that will help us establish the connection. So here is where the jargon comes in. Most people learn only 2 connection requests. I'm sure that people can say them by heart. One is, would you be willing to tell me what you heard me say? Da 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 da. And the others, would you be willing to tell me how you feel about what I said? In a context where somebody is not signed on to NVC, they can only vomit. People who have agreed to study NVC still vomit. Why? Because I'm opening a drawer, picking up a formula and stuffing it down your throat instead of asking myself the simple question, what do I want to hear from you that will help us move towards a little bit more connection? And when you ask it like this, there's an infinite range of possibilities. I'm so sad to come home and find the dishes unwashed, and it's so important for me to have order, and I so much want to have support. Now, in this, having said this, imagine now the other person. They were there. They knew we had agreed to wash the dishes. They didn't wash the dishes. There's so much life going on inside of them. Often people have shame or guilt about not having done what they said they would do, and that is so uncomfortable that they turn it into anger. So they are angry at me for having made the agreement to wash the dishes. Or they are afraid that I'm going to be mad at them. Or who knows what. All of that is going on. I want to have that in my awareness. So perhaps I can even ask something as simple as, are you in a place where we can talk about this? Or maybe I know that you have special equipment on your ears that ensures that you hear blame and criticism no matter what I say. So then I can ask, are you hearing blame or criticism in what I just said? Because if you say yes, there's very little else that we can do other than focus on that. This is a slightly different topic. I will just say very little bit about it. I imagine many of you have heard the phrase, don't take no for an answer. Have you heard that phrase? I say, don't take yes for an answer. So then I can say, I come home, the dishes are washed, but there is a thick air of resentment. I feel it. It's a different conversation. Then I can say, you know, I have very mixed feelings about seeing the dishes washed. I'm very grateful and relieved because I'm tired and I wouldn't want to be washing the dishes right now. And I have a lot of sadness and concern when I imagine that you did this, you washed the dishes with a lot of anger in your heart. Would you tell me if that was true for you? We are already moving towards connection. Or I can ask, is it a surprise to you that I'm sad about this? Possibilities are endless. I like to ask more specific yes-no questions in my requests. And what supports me in moving towards the connection is that I either ask for the response that I am hoping for or the response that I'm afraid of. So here is how I can do it. If what I'm hoping for is compassion, let's say, I can say something like, I imagine that you have all kinds of reactions to what I just said, and I'm wondering if part of it anywhere includes some compassion for me. I help direct the person's attention to where we're going together. The person can still say no, and that's fine. It will be hard to hear, but it's still fine. But it will be easier for them than to be asked an open-ended question. The chances that I will hear when I ask, how do you feel about what I just said? The chances that I will hear, I feel compassion towards you, are about 1 in a million. And if I am afraid, let's say, that my bringing it up is triggering anger in you, then I will ask that. You know, whatever other reactions you have in you, is there any way in which you're angry at me for bringing this up? Then I know right away what's important for me to know to create the connection. Walk towards lunch and try to practice connection requests. Thank you. It has been a delightful pleasure to be here.
I've been really valuing without being stuck to words.